as we said in the little introduction with Sarah, I've seen a few of you on my screen before, and I've been to a bunch of these kind of marvelous meetups, right? So I think we're all super grateful to Chris, Alberto and Sarah for putting this together. So show a bit of love in the chat while I introduce today's session. Just say thanks to Chris, Alberto and Sarah for putting this thing together. And I'll introduce what we're talking about today. Today, we're going to be exploring this word, right? Storytelling, or purposeful storytelling. Because I believe that the stories we tell can change the world. In fact, we have a responsibility to tell our stories because we are purposeful leaders, right? We are creative people that we have the responsibility to tell that story, to not only help other people see the benefits of having a purpose and understanding purpose, but that change is possible through purpose and maybe inspire themselves to action as well. So it's our responsibility to get this form of communication right. But however, it's noisy out there in internet land. And we all have mobile phones, and everybody has mobile phones, and we're all capable of fighting for each other's attention. So it's really important that we use narrative and story to cut through this noise. So how do purpose superheroes, a phrase I've stolen beautifully from the Purpose Collective, and a question you guys always ask actually. So how do purpose superheroes like you, with good stories full of hope and change, get them heard? The answer is, what I hope to show you today is through storytelling, with purpose. Now, purposeful storytelling helps us understand what a person or a brand or an organization believes, and more importantly, what are they going to do about it? And we use narrative and story to do that because story has long been at the center of human connection. It connects us to each other and to ideas and to things and places. It's the glue that holds a lot of our kind of society and humanity together. So when I say it's long been the center of connection, I really mean it. Aristotle, back in 330 BC, started to communicate professionally and document persuasion and story. This is its origins. In fact, he gave us the ingredients of effective communication. He gave us logos and pathos and ethos. In today's language, trust, think and feel. We'll hear more of those later on. We've also seen great studies recently about the Significant Objects Project, where two guys bought 200 items for $129 from eBay and only added story when they relisted them with the same image, the same price, and they made $3.6 million out of those objects, proving that narrative. Oh, somebody with a bit of background noise. Proving that narrative adds value to the products and services we provide. But bringing it back to modern day times, we've seen loads of scientific studies that have proved narrative engages and sparks life into each area of our brain, the logical brain, the emotional brain, and the somatic brain, right? All areas of our human bodies are stimulated by story. So the stories we tell about who we are and why we're here and what we actually do, why it's important and why it matters, really matter. So are we ready to start this little exploration of storytelling? I'm going to introduce the model that we're working through next, and as we head into the first breakout room. So this is called the Story Star. It's a simple framework I use all the time. I'm going to speak to each part of it, and then we're going to get into the breakout sessions, because I know from being one of you guys really that these are the real value bits of today's session. So it's a really simple model. It's got 6 points. It starts with a heart, right? And then goes through origins, resonate, inspire, simplify, clockwise through the circle. And I know you good people out there have an idea of what your purpose is. So the heart is really easy. We're not going to work on that today. But the heart of a story can be one idea. It can be about a purpose. It can be about a just cause, or as simple as a problem that you solve for the people you choose to serve, or a story about a need that you meet from the people you choose to serve also. So just so it's front of mind, pop your purpose statement or what your purpose is in the chat, so you've got it front of mind for this first breakout session. Okay, so today we're going to focus on 2 parts of this. We're going to focus on the origin story and the resonate part, right? So let me explain what the origin story is. We mentioned earlier, trust, think, and feel. And that's what a story has to do. That's what a story has to make the user or the listener or the audience do. You have to be able to make them trust you, make them think, and make them feel something. And this is where these points of the story start. So the origin story is all about you. This is your opportunity as an individual, as a leader of an organization, as a personal brand, to tell your side of the story, why it's important and why it matters to you. This is your origin story. Just like any good superhero, you purpose superheroes have an origin story too. And that's what we're going to do in the first breakout session. So we'll start going to your group, and then I want you to frame the origin story. So but I know this time flies by, right? This 10 minutes of breakout room flies by in the first instance. So let's focus on a trigger moment. A moment of clarity when you felt that calling, when you've realized what your purpose is and what you're here to do on the planet. So this is your time to your breakout colleagues to tell that story and tell us why it matters to you, right? So now, Chris, I'm going to stop sharing screen. If Excellent. We can come back into breakouts.
Yeah, so I'm going to open all the rooms, so if everybody can switch your cameras on. So we're going to be in groups of 3s and 4s. And I think, Tim, we've got time. We're on a good schedule, so I reckon we could do 12 minutes for this.
That would be awesome, because these stories can carry on. That would be brilliant.
Excellent. So opening the rooms now, and we shall see you all back in about 12 minutes.
Awesome. Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you had enough time to each have a bit of a chat today. I know from experience that sometimes there's too many words, usually from my part, if I'm honest, to give everybody a fair whack. So that's useful. But let's find out how that was, right? What were your trigger moments, a moment of clarity? If you want to pop them in the chat, that's awesome. I can read some out because I can see the chat with my colleagues, or if you want to unmute and share, I'm sure we can do that, as long as it's not everybody at once. That'd be awesome. What was that origin story? What was that point of clarity for you guys? Chris was saying why you guys are typing and unmuting that it was we brought up more of a challenge, an unpositive work experience, weren't you, Chris?
Yes. Yeah, so that's part of my origin story. My turning point was kind of experiencing something really bad that made me realize that I needed to do something about it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So we've got starting to come in through the chat now. We've got Shireen said values, which is super important. They are the foundations, what effective purpose is, and you know, being the best human you can be are built on. That's really good. Joe has put wanting to make the world a better place for my son. Yeah, that's really good. Joe, other Joe with an E, not Joe Owen, enjoy co-creating insights with others. Like that co-creation, right? That again, that connection to other people. That co-collaboration is super important. That's really interesting, Joe. Awesome. Anybody want to shout out before we move on? Here we go, Dave. Oh my God, there's a lot coming in now. Good times. Paul Price, Hazelhurst. Finding a company that re-engaged me with my individual purpose. That's really interesting, Paul. I too have an individual purpose, and then the organizations I work with have distinct purposes also. So that's really interesting. David didn't realize there was a trigger point, but it's an early career change to find a human-centered journey. Exactly right. We've all got these origin stories. We've all got these moments of clarity, these challenges that we've gone through, something that has kicked us or leveled us up or moved us forward, right? They are there, but you have to do the work, you have to do the discovery to understand them. They're really interesting in workshops doing this sort of thing. Andy Chell, treasuring our teams rather than measuring them. What a lovely sentence that is. I'm going to steal that, Andy Chell. Thank you very much. Search for purpose and leaving a legacy and being the best version of ourselves. Nice. Having to reflect very deeply. Yes, Jan, if I pronounced that wrong, sorry. But to reflect, right? This is difficult work with purpose, like finding purpose. We've done some recently with earlier this year with the University of Virginia, a leadership team of 1,200 people who have been the same for 140 years. And it's, getting them to take time to reflect and not know the answers and rediscover what their purpose is and how it's changed in the world of diversity, equity, and inclusion and things like that has been really important. But that time to reflect isn't something we give ourselves in a world that likes us to be busy, right? So that's really interesting, folks. Thank you. That was a good little introduction into that. So I'm going to start sharing my screen again now. So just to recap, because I know a few people joined us a little bit after the beginning, because I got to see the other side of breakout rooms today. Exciting stuff happens when we're all in breakout rooms. So this is the story style. This is the model that I want to introduce you today and help you to work through. Just to recap very quickly for those people who joined late, every story, right? Every purposeful story has something at the heart of it, whether it be an idea, whether it's a story about a purpose or a cause you're looking to do, or a problem you're looking to solve, or a need you're looking to meet for the people you choose to serve, your audience. We've just had a breakout room looking at the part of the story we call the origin story, because we are all purpose superheroes, and like any good superhero, we need an origin story. We need to build trust and credibility of how this thing happened to us, why it matters to us, why we're not just saying it. Things like greenwashing have been in the press and in the digital media for a long time now, and people being called out. But the origin story proves that it's something we care about. And hopefully you got time to figure what that moment was, what that moment of clarity, what that trigger point was in your origin story. So there's been many pieces of research now into the effectiveness of storytelling, some that I mentioned before, scientific studies and the significant object study and things like that, to drive action, right? To drive behavior, to change behavior in groups of people and in teams and in organizations and communities. But overwhelmingly, people prefer stories about real people and lived experiences. So it was great to see as many of those examples in the chat of that very thing, of your true experiences. So those two first points, the heart of the story, which you all know well with your purpose for today, and the origin story, are the only times you get to speak about you or your brand or your organization. This is usually where a lot of communication for businesses stops. It's all about me, and aren't we great and so on. But story doesn't finish there. That's only the first bit of the story. Coming up is the time you make it relevant to those you are trying to serve, to make it resonate with your audience. Because in the end, we want to inspire action. We want something to change. We want people to adopt our idea or buy our product or service or join our movement or subscribe to our event, like the Purpose Collective thing in London, right? A lot of problem with communication is that we tend to just farm out knowledge and information. But knowledge and information alone doesn't drive action. Understanding does, right? I'm not saying that data and information isn't important, but the understanding, the narrative, the depth, that having a narrative or story about that piece of information, that piece of knowledge, gives us context and helps ourselves, our teams, our colleagues, and our audiences really understand what we're trying to say. It makes it real for them, right? So one of the most effective ways to do this is through understanding the needs of the people we're telling the story to, our audience, our customers, for example. So usually with the gift of time, I would take you through a lovely exercise called empathy mapping or strategic empathy, as we frame it. But it's literally a 3-hour-long rabbit hole that we can't venture down today because of the constraints of the time. So I want to keep it simple for the next breakout session. So this is where I want you to tell a story to your colleagues in the breakout room that shows you understand who your purpose serves and how you've met a need, right? How it's helped somebody, right? How it's helped them solve a problem, how it's helped them join your cause or get that idea adopted, and what it was like for them. How did they feel? Like, what was the outcome for the people who heard the story? What did success look like at that, right? How did they get and measure the value of what story you were trying to take? What change did it make in the world? Let me give you a quick example before we send you off again. So one of the organizations I use is I'm part of is a human-centered design consultancy based out in the States. We're a global team of people, but in theory, we can work with any organization, which, you know, as a reformed marketer isn't super effective in communication, trying to communicate to everybody. So we categorize the best work we do, right? The best work we do is categorized into 3 categories of needs. So money, market, and exposure. Let me explain those 3 things. So people come to us for help if they want to increase profit or turnover or reduce costs. So they're the set of needs, the category of needs that we can help with through designing products, services, communications, that sort of thing. And then the same with market. People are facing challenges with market. So sometimes people come to us to increase market share for their business, or reduce time to market to get customers onboarded quicker, to help people go forward quicker. And exposure, a really big one at the moment, is how to retain customers and how to retain staff through employer branding and reduce risk by developing and designing really interesting innovations and products and services that will reduce the risk of disruption going forward, like we've just seen in the last 2 years. So many digital business models now exist for organizations who didn't think it was possible, for example. So this is what we want you to do in this breakout room, in this little next breakout room. Is resonate, is speak to the needs of the people you choose to serve. So I've got a couple of examples of statements I'll pop in the chat for you. I'm just going to read them out now. My purpose is ... and it meets this need ... through or by. is a little sentence starter for those of you who need that help. But if you're new to this, if you're new to purpose, if you're just starting out, please feel free to use your imagination and paint a picture of an ideal situation, like a future cast of how you could help somebody with your purpose. So I'm going to stop sharing now and we'll be ready for the second breakout room. Here we go.
So I'm going to open the rooms now, and I think we've got 10 minutes for this one. So
welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the second breakout room. I know they fly by. The time is short when you're in those chatting situations.
Can I just say, sorry, can I?
Hello? Yeah.
If you can hear me.
I'd
just like to say I've never been in one of these and I am thoroughly enjoying it. I just think it's a great idea. I'm in Australia and I'm connecting with people in India, in the UK, and I just love it. I think it's fantastic. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Brilliant.
Oh, thank you, Kerry. It's great. And that's what this is about. It's a global community.
That is really good to hear, Kerry. That was really good. So hopefully these chats, these conversations have gone well for you. If you want to pop in the chat, like what needs your purpose meet, if there's any little feedbacks in there, I'll start to wrap up because again, time is running away. It goes quicker in Purpose Collective time, I think, actual minutes. I think it goes up to, so I'll share my screen and I'll start to wrap up as you pop all the good stuff in the chat. Bear with me, here we go. So back on to our little friend, the story star. So we've just looked at trying to get our story to resonate with the people we choose to serve, and we've focused on the needs, right? And like myself and the organizations I'm part of, right, the people you choose to serve, right, as an individual, as a brand, might have many needs, and that's okay because you can tell many different stories. This story structure here helps you create a set of stories in your brain boxes that you can tell about how your purposeful work meets that need, right? So I know what stories I can tell to prove that I increase market share for people or reduce costs or help them with staff retention, right? I have those in my brain because I know the narrative framework that's on story. I can communicate that effectively. So I really hope you had some good stuff to talk about and can understand this framework. So to round up and recap, I want to talk through what we kind of explored today for the next couple of minutes. As you as smart folks out there, you'll notice there are 2 points on the store I've not touched yet, and I will do that now because they're for you to take away. So don't worry, you're not missing any fundamental parts of the framework. So I'm going to recap the star, right? Speaking with an effective, purposeful story needs one thing at the heart. Right, you only have to have one thing at the heart of a story because having multiple ideas or purposes at the heart of the story that you're telling about dilutes its effectiveness. And then once we understand what the heart of our purposeful story is, we need to tell its origin story, why it matters to us. How did we get to today? That superhero origin story really matters because we need to build trust, just like Aristotle said in 330 BC. But that's not enough. That's not when storytelling stops. It's really the foundations of effective storytelling because we go on to tell stories that resonate with the people we're telling them to, with our audience. Right, so we want to make them resonant by speaking to the needs it will help them with, the problems it will solve, the new futures, the change it will make in their world with your idea adopted. Because end after end, we want to inspire action, right? We want to get to the point where we're painting a picture of how they can move forward. We're giving them a call to action. How to join us, how to join our product or service, how to sign up for an event or a subscription, how to buy the book we've written, right? What action do we want them to take? What should they be inspired to do? But then it follows on to simplify and amplify. And these are your homework, right? This is a thing for you to think about after today's session, right? Alberto kind of beat me to it with one of my favorite analogies with his billboard question a couple of months ago, probably now actually, but it's a really great exercise. Think about how you simplify that story, because all those words are brilliant, but if you only had one billboard to tell the world about what you do, what would you put on it? There's also a really easy exercise called 50, 15 and 5, where you get to write the narrative in shorter increments in 10 minutes. But I'll leave you with a final word of encouragement, and that's to amplify. With such great purposes between this little community and such ability to tell purposeful stories, don't forget to tell them, right? Stories are the greatest way of connecting people to each other and getting your ideas and products and services adopted. So amplify them out in the world. Don't be afraid, because people need to hear the stories, because the stories we tell can change the world. And I'll stop speaking now and stop sharing my screen and hand back to the team. But thank you for playing along to me today, and sorry for the weird internet connection issues.
Well, thank you very much, team. For everyone, yes, in the last 1 more minute. So I think everyone feels a bit inspired today. I'm gonna take the usual screenshots. You need to smile. You know how it works, and if not, you just smile. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's good. And then just a reminder, we have more conversations about purpose coming, but next week we have a masterclass. We will send you the links and the email, also the recording, also the chat, of this session, and then the links to the masterclass that we are running next week on the 30th of September. And also, we are running our next conversation about purpose, our next session on-site, face-to-face in London on the 7th of October. For the first time, Chris, Sarah, and I are going to meet finally face-to-face after running almost 50 events now, I think. And we never met as the three of us in person. And we would love to see you, as many of you, if you are around London, of course. Maybe Kerry, for you, is gonna be a bit more difficult, but we will continue with these online sessions as well. But we would love to meet as many of you as possible on the 7th in London. So thank you very much for being here. Have a great day, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
That was great. Great session.
Bye.